Okay, so welcome back to my channel. I am Jason, and this is From Sin's Perspective Reviews. So, unfortunately, we have come to the end. It is the season finale of Bridgerton, episode 8, After the Rain. And so the episode opens with Simon and Daphne sitting for their first portrait. And their chemistry was so off that it was kind of throwing the artist off. He was like, because, you know, Daphne is sitting, Simon is standing, he has his hand on her shoulder, but, you know, nobody's smiling. It's like you could just see, you know, you could just feel the tension, right? And so the artist is like kind of giving them tips like maybe you should move closer to her, maybe you should put, you know, position yourself this way. And it was just, it was quite difficult for the artist. And eventually Simon moves closer to her, and when he put his hand on her shoulder, they suddenly, you know, they made eye contact and remembered way back when, you know, all these, you know, months ago, I guess, you know, since they married. And I remember they've only been married for so long that, you know, at one point they did care for each other. They still do, but they still doing this whole passive aggressive craziness. So, but eventually that gave him what he needed, and he was able to finish the portrait. And so we go over to Bridgerton's house, and they're all in the drawing room, and Eloise is being her normal, inquisitive, aka nosy self. That child is nosy. And so she's talking to Benedict about Genevieve, and she's asking, like, well, you know, how do you know her? You know, when, how did you meet her? And, you know, how much do you know about her? And he is basically painting Eloise as a snob. He's saying that, you know, does it matter? Does it matter that she doesn't live in a certain area of the city, or, you know, she, you know, is a modiste? Do you think that she's not good, you know, good enough for me, or something to that effect? And she was like, basically, no, that's not what I'm saying. And then, she basically, you know, wanted to end the conversation and was like, you know what, I need to prepare for this ball, because it's the final ball of the season and it's being hosted by Simon and Daphne. And so before she left, Lady Violet walks in. She received a letter saying that her daughter, Francesca, she is going to be arriving. Of course, they're all excited because they haven't seen her in a while. So at the Featheringtons, Penelope, she went to Marina's room to see how she was doing. Marina was up and packing, and Penelope's like, well, should you be up? And, you know, just asking her if she's okay, and, you know, what she had going on, what was she doing? And Marina was basically like, you know what, she felt like the tea worked, that she was no longer pregnant, that she hadn't felt the baby, and she felt like her problems has been solved, and she basically no longer has to put play this game. And so they hear a carriage approaching, and so they go to the window, and the man steps out of the carriage, and Marina kind of looks concerned. She almost look like she's nauseous or something, and Penelope kind of looks at her and, you know, kind of like, who do you know who that is? And so we go over to Lady Violet and Daphne. They are in the market, and they're talking, and Daphne is telling Lady Violet that she wants to separate from Simon, like things aren't working out, and she feels that it's the best thing for both of them, for them to just go ahead and separate. And of course, Lady Violet is telling her, you know, that, you know, one of the things that you'll learn, you'll have to learn, is forgiveness. It's like, relationships are hard, marriages are hard. You know, as much as I loved your father, things didn't always go, you know, run smoothly. That is, you know, part of being in a relationship. And you have to learn to forgive. And so they were talking, and eventually Lady Portia walks up, and she was talking about the upcoming ball and how they haven't received, she was basically like, you know, I guess we'll have to read about it, and I guess Lady Whistledown newsletter, because, you know, we didn't get an invitation. And so of course Lady Violet is still giving her the evil eyes, like, girl, you tried to hurt my family and trap my son, and the whole. Lady Violet ain't trying to hear nothing Lady Portia has to say. But Daphne decided she was going to extend the invitation. So she invited them personally to the ball. And of course, there wasn't a whole lot that Lady Violet could say, because it's Daphne's house, it's Daphne's party. She can invite who she wants. And so I guess that was her way of telling her mom, like, well, these things are in the past and we need to move forward. Like, you was just talking all that forgiveness stuff. So let's, put your money where your mouth is. Kind of attitude she had. And so, of course, Lady Portia was happy. And then the maid said that she was told that Mr. Crane was at the house. And so Daphne was like, "Do you mean Sir George Crane?" And then you flash to Lady Portia and Daphne arriving at the house. You can imagine that Lady Portia is I can imagine she would be quite nervous because, remember, she falsified that letter given to Marina saying that pretending to be Sir George and how he's not going to, take care of her or the baby, and basically that she was on her own, was trying to push her into these raggedy marriage relationships with these old men. So now she's probably feeling like, okay, oh Lord, the cat's about to be out the bag. But they go into the drawing room, and Lady Portia says, "Well, you never wrote to Miss Crane, never wrote to Miss Thompson." And he said, I don't feel like I would have a reason to. And then Marina tells her this isn't the right Crane. This is Sir Philip, Sir George's brother. And he was there to tell her that Sir George died on the battlefield so many weeks ago. So obviously that was not what she wanted to hear. And she left. Marina left the room. And Daphne followed her out into the hallway. And of course, Marina is emotional. She was like, I knew that he loved me. And Sir Philip found this half-written note that Sir George was writing to Marina, but obviously never got a chance to post. And she was like, if it wasn't for Daphne's inquiry, that Sir Philip wouldn't even know where she was. And she felt guilty because she thought, the worst of Sir George, and she felt like because he didn't write, he didn't respond, and then when he did, it was that letter, saying that he didn't want anything to do with the child, and then, the whole time he did love her, and how he did want to run away with her, and he wanted to marry her, and wanted, I guess, make an honest woman out of her, and she felt guilty, that she thought so low of him, and then she kind of just walked away. And of course, Daphne is saying that she feels bad for her, because at this point, it's sad. It's really sad. Eloise goes to the modiste. Genevieve opens the door, and Eloise, shows up under the pretense of getting a new dress for the upcoming ball. And she's like, "Well, you already have a new dress." She was like, "Oh, well, I want a different one." And so she let her in, and they talked a little bit, and she saw this bright yellow dress, and she was like, "Well, this, maybe something like this, I guess the Featheringtons would find this fashionable." Even though they're still feeling the sting of Lady Whistledown's last publication. And, it would be nice if Lady Whistledown can write something positive about the Featheringtons. And so she's talking to Genevieve, and then she started talking, her brother came up briefly about, men don't really take heed to gossip, and they really don't get involved in that. And basically, her conversation was basically trying to see what Genevieve's intentions were, and Genevieve basically said that she doesn't have any motives or any nefarious reasons for being with Benedict. Like, she's not there to cause problems for anyone. And of course, Eloise was happy to hear that, and then she tells her, the queen is enraged, and she's determined to find out who this Lady Whistledown is, and so she should probably be very careful about what she prints from now on, and the whole thing. And Genevieve was basically like, Lady Whistledown is an intelligent woman who can look out for herself, and she's gonna be all right. And so Daphne was like, well, it was nice talking to you, and she left. So, but at the whole time, Benedict was in the back room. He was there. They was, I guess, starting a session, or something. and Eloise kind of interrupted their, their flow. And so he's in the back, like, just covering his face, like, I can't believe she came here to talk to her, but that was funny. Daphne, she's back at Hastings House, and of course there's the decorations are on the way for the ball, and eventually she run into Simon in the hallway. He's on his way out. He's actually going to Will's match, and he invited her, but she basically said that she had a lot to do at the house, and she eventually asked him, like, what did your father do to you that would cause you to make such a vow? And he basically said that he really also didn't want to talk about it, and he basically said that he was doing what he thought was best for her own good, and she basically said she can determine that for herself. And he tells her that, I think that you're going to be better off without me. I do apologize. My phone is getting notifications, if you can hear that. And he left to go to the fight. So now they're at the fight, and you can kind of see everybody milling around, people taking bets and the whole thing. And Will is standing over with his wife. She's bandaging his hands, and they're talking, and she's talking about she wants to leave London, and he is basically saying that, I guess he's saying that now is not the right time, and that their livelihood is dependent on keeping, the masses happy. And, he talked a little bit, and she was kind of curious. She's like, so what are you talking about? She was like, well, maybe I should lose. And I think you got where he was going with that. But she was still kind of like, what's going on? And so then you see him look over, and you see Lord Featherington. He's standing by the wayside, and he's watching as Will is preparing, like making eye contact, like, we have like making sure that they're still on the same page, I guess. So Lord Featherington sees these two guys standing off to the side, and he starts talking to them, and he's saying that he wanted to place a bet. And they basically said, well, why did you ask us to come? Could it be that your word doesn't mean anything, and that basically we're the only ones who would even dare, attempt to take basically a bet from you? And he basically said that you don't have to worry about that. And he says that he wants to make a sizable bet, and he ends up handing them the deed to their house. So you can't you compound the situation, right? So he hands them the deed to his house, to their house, to back up whatever this bet. They never say the amount, but I can imagine it was quite, as he puts it, sizable. And they take the bet, and Collins and Anthony eventually arrive, and Anthony, he see that Sienna is there, and you can see that he still has feelings for her. He can't, and she noticed him too, but she's there with another man, so he's making him hot under his collar a little bit. But you the one screwed up multiple times, so ain't a whole lot you could do about that. So Simon finally arrives, and Wills is, kind of talked to him a little bit about being late because we want him in his corner. And so he asked Simon Simon asked Wills if he was ready, and he was like, I guess as ready as I'm ever going to be. And he kind of glanced over, and you could see Lord Featherington, and Simon turned, and he saw Lord Featherington kind of looking at him and Wills making eye contact, and he looked at Wills like, what's going on there? But of course he didn't ask. Wills just went on and, got into the ring. And so, back at the Featheringtons, Lady Portia's talking to the maid. She was like, we don't have any credit at the Modis. And basically the girl's going to have to wear an older dress. Like, they don't have any money to have anything basically, made or even tailored to even attempt to look somewhat different. You got to wear something that you already have. And I think it was Prudence that said, well, I'd rather not go than wear an old dress. I mean, it's the last ball of the season, so obviously, you want to look your best. And they all go into the drawing room, and Sir Philip is there. And of course, they're surprised to see him, and he tells them that he wants to speak with, I just kicked the camera, I'm glad it didn't. He wants to talk to Marina. And so Marina comes down and he proposed to Marina. And he's saying that, that, his brother loved her very much and that he would want her taken care of. And he would, he wants to do what he feel what would make his brother happy. And he's going to marry her so that she'll be protected. The baby will be protected and the whole thing. Marina, I don't know what the hell is wrong with her, what goes through her mind. You already know that the father of the child has passed away. It's just, I don't know what she was thinking. But anyway, she turned him down. She basically said that I don't know this man, I don't love this man, and I can't marry him. And he, basically, he obviously wasn't a whole lot he could say. He thanked her for her time and he left. And of course, Lady Portia told her, Lady Portia is upset. She was like, he was a perfectly acceptable match, and she couldn't understand why Marina would say no. She was like, you know what? I'm not pregnant anymore, so therefore I don't have to get involved in these schemes or scams or whatever you have going on. And she just was like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not pregnant anymore, so I'm not beholden to the whims of other people. So, Daphne is now, Simon, he's at the fight. So, Daphne is in, I'm assuming that would have been, Lord Hastings, the first, Hastings office. So everything is covered in sheets. So she's going through all the, the desk looking for whatever she can find. And she finds a stack of unopened letters. And she sits down to read the letters. And so, of course, it's going back and forth. So, at the match, you see Anthony, he is staring Sienna down. They're kind of looking at each other. And eventually, they end up somewhere having sex. Okay. So, there's that. So, Wills gets knocked down. And, of course, people, screaming, get up, get up. And, of course, Simon wants him to get up. But then he realized that Wills, he's not injured enough, to the point where he can't get up, and he just laid there. And so Simon had already knew that he threw the match. And of course, Lord Featherington was way too ecstatic. So Lady Danbury walks into the office and she finds Daphne reading the letters. And of course, she took Daphne by surprise. And Daphne was like, and Lady Danbury was like, well, we came to. Me and your mother came to help with the party, but Lady Violet was still downstairs. And Daphne started asking Lady Danbury about Simon and his relationship with his father. And she was like, I think, she's starting to understand him more. She's like, well, he never said that he had a speech impediment. And Lady Danbury said no, because he worked so hard to overcome that. And that's why he would write to his father to give his father updates. And then, Daphne was like, well, it's sad that he never opened any of his letters. And, but, he always had you to support and encourage him. And she basically said that, Simon's triumph was his own. He worked hard. I may have encouraged him, but he did the hard work and he overcame, and he is the man that he is today because of his own work. And I think Daphne could respect that, and it kind of gave her an insight and understanding more of where Simon was coming from. And so I think that did soften her stance and her attitude towards him after that. So Simon goes to talk to Wills, and as he was going in, Lord Featherington was leaving. And of course, Simon is not happy that Wills drew the match. And he says to Simon, you know what, spare me. Like, you don't know what it's like to I have to do what I need to do to take care of my family. And Simon was like, well, what would your wife think? And basically, Will said that instead of worrying about my wife, you should be concerned about your own marriage. And Simon didn't like that. And so basically, Wills told him that, I know that you're angry, but it's not with me. So you need to take it somewhere else and you need to deal with it. And Wills just walked away like, it sucks. But he's like, I got to do what I got to do for my family. And so back at the Featheringtons, Lord Featherington and Lady Portia is in his office, and he's telling her that they're going to be okay. All their prayers have been answered, and he dumps this entire bag of money all over the desk. She's looking at, where did all this money come from? And he's like, well, you know, I had a man in place, you know, he basically didn't go into any great detail, but he's basically saying that all their problems are over. And you can see she was kind of looking at the money like, oh Lord, you know, where did this money come from? But at the same time, she was excited that they was no longer, you know, going to have to deal with the humiliation of being poor. And so she called the maid in and basically told her that the girls can get new dresses. So of course everybody is now excited. Okay, so back at Hastings' house, Simon walked into to have breakfast, and he saw Daphne, and he was confused. He was kind of surprised to see her. He was like, you know, I thought you usually have breakfast. He usually has breakfast in another room. I guess things had gotten to the point where she couldn't even sit in the same room with him. And she was like, well, you know, I just thought I would do something different. She was like, I can leave if you want. And he was like, well, no, that's fine. And then she told him that that her sister was in town, and that she wanted to go over to Bridgerton's house so that she could see, you know, spend time with her family. And she invited him to come. And I think he was surprised, but of course he was happy to go. You know, a while before she was slamming carriage doors in his face and wanted to be by herself. So I guess her inviting him now, he's like, sure, I would love to accompany you. And so I thought that was funny. So they arrive so Simon and Daphne arrive, and Hyacinth ran over to Simon. Is like, when am I going to be able to come to Cliveden? And he told her, you can come anytime you want. And she kind of pulled him off to the side. You know how kids are. Of course, Francesca, you know, she got up and she gave Daphne a hug. They talked for a little while. And, of course, Eloise behind is over there talking to Benedict again about Genevieve. And he, you know, don't really want to say too much about it. And eventually Anthony sits down and he's like, what are you guys talking about? And Benedict told him that he's been seeing Genevieve. And Anthony kind of looked over him like he was going to say something crazy, like, you know, yell at him or I guess chastise him or something. But they were both surprised when he was like, good for you. You know, I'm happy for you. And, you know, it's good that, you know, you found somebody that you, I guess, enjoyed being around. They were both shocked, like, what? So that was funny. And so Francesca sat at the piano and started playing, and Colin started singing. Hyacinth and George got up and started dancing. And it seemed like everybody was happy and having a good time. Penelope arrived, and of course Eloise pulled her to the side, and she tells her that she thinks that Genevieve is Lady Whistledown, and how she feels like, you know, after her conversation with Genevieve, that Genevieve is going to print a favorable article about the Featheringtons, which would probably, hopefully, put them back in everyone's good graces. And of course, Penelope is like, you know, I don't think that anything's going to help my family for some time to come. And, you know, she's come to terms with that. And so, after the singing, you kind of saw, Simon, he was over sitting between Hyacinth and George. And I think it was Hyacinth that asked for a pony and, or a horse or something to that. I think she may have asked him how many horses he had and if they could have one. And he was like, what about a pony? And he made this paper mache pony. And it seemed very natural. They, you know, seemed to be drawn to him. He seemed to be very natural around children. And of course, Daphne took note of that, and they kind of made eye contact and smiled. So it's not that he has so much aversion to children. It's just that he never really wanted to have any of his own. And so I think that was quite, you know, pleasant for her to see how he interacted with her younger siblings. So over at the Featheringtons, the new dresses arrived, and Lady Portia ends up saying more than she should have said. She says to Philippa, well, maybe Mr. Finch might, you know, start courting you again now that you have your diary. that you're able to, now that you have a dowry. And so Philip was like, what do you mean? What do you mean a dowry? Didn't I have one before? And so that whole conversation. So while they were talking, Marina was walking. She had a plate in her hand. I guess she was walking to the kitchen. And I guess she started feeling sick. She ended up dropping the plate, and the plate smashed all over the floor. And everyone came from the drawing room to see what was going on. And of course, Lady Portia asked her if she was okay. And Marina asked to see the doctor. And so now at this point, everybody's kind of concerned. And unfortunately, her worst fears were confirmed, that the tea did not kill the baby. Even the doctor said, so many women try to do that, but no, that was never going to work. And she is in fact still pregnant. And you can turn down a marriage proposal. So, okay. So, Anthony and Sienna, they spent the day together, and it's the day of the ball. And they, talked and, traded the quips a little bit. And then he decided that he was ready for Sienna to be introduced. He was ready to introduce her to society on his arms. And he invited her to the ball. And he was like, you know what? I am the Viscount. My sister is the Duchess. The Duke is my friend. And so I don't think that anybody is going to have the gall to say anything. And she was like, well, not to you. But, they can still have words about me. And so he basically begged her to come, and she smiled. So I'm assuming, you got from that she eventually agreed to come. They didn't actually show her actually saying yes, but you kind of got the feeling that she agreed. And so back at Hastings, they're ready for the ball, and they descend the steps on either side. And their portrait is in the center of the dance floor. Well, not in the center, but kind of. It's there for people to see as they're dancing and milling about, right? And so they're standing in front of their portrait, and, they talked, and it was almost like old times, like when they first met, when the whole ruse was afoot, and how it was so easy for them to talk to each other and make each other laugh. And it was, that kind of energy. And, she's saying that we should probably, coordinate for tonight. She thought that it would be better for them to do 3 dances. He thought 2. She was like, if we do less than 3, then it might cause people to be concerned. And, that whole thing. And, it seemed like, they were talking, and Rose came in and told them that the guests were starting to arrive. Okay, so, the party's on the way, and everybody's, milling around, talking, drinking, eating, being merry, how they do at these events. And Lady Violet and Eloise arrive. And you can see that Eloise was visibly uncomfortable. And Daphne eventually goes over to talk to Eloise. Because Eloise is not for the pomp and circumstance. Eloise was complaining about her corset being too tight. And Daphne basically told her, she understands, and that, the library, if she wanted to spend the night in the library, that she wouldn't say anything. And, they talked a little bit, and she told Daphne, I wanted to thank you. And of course, Daphne's like, what for? She was like, for being perfect, so I don't have to. And that was sweet. So they had a little moment there. The Featheringtons arrive. And, of course, people are talking, and, 2 women walk up to her and, started asking her, we didn't expect to see you. And she was telling them that the Duchess invited us personally. And, sometimes things change sometimes overnight. And they said, well, where's your husband? And then they say, well, I guess some things doesn't change. And she thought about it. And you flash to Lord Featherington. He's drunk at some brothel. And one of the women led him into one of the rooms. And then he realized he wasn't there alone. He's now in a room with the 2 guys that he made this sizable bet with. And so he knows that he is in a situation. We'll say that. So we're back at the party. And Colin, he saw Penelope, and he walks over to talk to Penelope. And he apologized to her for not listening to her, and that, he know that she was only trying to spare him from having, his heart broken. And Penelope tells him that you should never apologize for being in love, and you should be honest, and you should just say what's on your mind. And so she was about to tell him how she felt, and then he says he tells her that he's leaving. And that, you know, them talking at dinner about travel, he realized how much he enjoys traveling, and that he would be leaving. And then he asked her, well, what were you about to say? And, you know, she said, oh, well, nothing. You could tell that she was about to burst into tears. I feel so bad for Penelope. Like, girl, oh my God, poor Penelope. Oh, Lord, I felt so bad for her. She probably thought at this point, finally, I should be able to tell him exactly how she feel. And he's like, oh, I'm leaving town. Not town, I'm leaving the country. Okay. So as she was walking, Eloise stopped her. Again, Eloise is still on this. I know, and the queen is over there, and I need to talk to her about my suspicions about who Lady Whistledown is. And she could see that Penelope was upset. And she asked her if she was, you know, okay. And you could see that she wasn't, but Penelope was like, oh, you know, I'm fine. That's fine. Go talk to the queen. You know, you go talk to her about Lady Whistledown. And she walked off. Now, a friend would have followed Penelope to see how she was doing. But no, she just had to go and talk to the queen. So as she was walking over to the queen, one of the queen's servants stopped her. It was like, you can't just get an order. You can't just go over and talk to the queen. And so she tells him that she wants an audience with the queen. She wants to talk to her about Lady Whistledown. And he tells her that they have an idea of who Lady Whistledown is, and that Lady Whistledown will be unmasked that night. He ends up telling her they found out the printing press, the area, on Lombard Street, where she goes to have her publications printed, and how basically they're gonna find out exactly who she is. And so, of course, now Eloise is like, she has to go and warn Lady Whistledown. And so she run out, and actually no, she goes over to Benedict, and he's in the middle of a conversation, and she wants to tell him that, you know, she thinks that Genevieve is going to be in trouble, but he kind of brushes her off and like, you know, I'll talk to you later. And so she ends up going outside to get a carriage, and of course, you know, the driver's like, he can't, you know, just leave, and she agreed to pay him. And so she ended up bribing the driver to take her to Lombard Street so that she can warn Lady Whistledown. So while this is going on, Anthony goes over to pick up Sienna, and when he knocks on the door, a man answered the door, and he was confused. He's like, okay. He was kind of confused, like maybe I'm at the wrong address. So Sienna came to the door, and she told the man he can go upstairs and she'll be up soon enough. And then she told Anthony that, you know, basically that she's been down this road too many times, and that she has learned, if this ordeal with him has taught her nothing, basically, is that she needs to take care of herself, and she needs to look out for herself. And that he needs to let her go. She told him that she felt that he was lost, and if she stayed with him, then she'd be adrift with him. And, you know, she just doesn't, you know, she's happy with where she is and with who she is, and he accepts her for who she is. He's not trying to make her be something else, and that it's time for Anthony to let her go. And he reluctantly, you know, agreed. And, you know, when she closed the door, he kind of turned away, but he had like this mean look on his face, like, is this really over? Is it not? Do you agree? I mean, I don't know. It was kind of hard to read. And of course he left, and he went on and got in his carriage, and he left. So as far as we know at this point, his relationship with Sienna is over. So Eloise is sitting outside the printers on Lombard Street waiting for Lady Whistledown. And shortly after, a carriage pulls up. And so she jumps out, and she could see this man running down the alley. And she ends up telling, you know, I guess the driver of the other carriage that it's a setup that you should go. And so the driver pulled off. And so the man ran up and was like, who are you? Why are you here? And of course she faked like, oh, I didn't know who you were. I thought you may have been someone else. And if you could catch up with them if you hurry up. And so the man runs after the carriage. So now it's like, oh, and now, but then again, Eloise has been spotted there. So when the person reports back to the queen, like, we almost had her, but this young lady kind of got in the way. I can imagine, you know, that's going to be problematic. So Danbury and Simon, she walks over to talk to Simon. And of course, she also knows that they are planning to separate. And she basically tells him, don't let your pride cost you everything. And you can kind of tell by the way that, you know, Penelope, Lord, Daphne and Simon glance at each other. I mean, it's not in, you know, and it's not in question whether or not they have feelings for each other. It's just, like I said, it's a complicated situation to navigate. So Daphne is over talking to Lady Violet, and she's like, is it different for men when they're in love than it is for women? And of course they talked. You know, she started talking about her father and, you know, the first time that she met her dad, and, you know, with all the problems that they had, that she still loved him. And, you know, every morning she still, you know, feel his pillow, and, you know, she misses him all over again. And like, you know, you're going to have problems, but the thing is that your father and I chose to love each other. And, basically, you know, relationships take work, and you have to choose to be together every day. And, you know, they're both trying to encourage them to stop being stupid and figure things out, basically. So now it's time for Simon and Daphne to dance. So they're now on the dance floor. They're waltzing. Of course, you know, there's portions of it that's in slow motion. People are kind of, you know, there are other couples, but of course, people are watching them, and they seem to be, you know, gliding across the floor quite easily. I mean, it was a very nice romantic dance. And then it started raining. And because it's open, you know, it's the way they were having where the party was. I mean, they could move off to the side, but, you know, on the dance floor was directly outside, so the rain was coming in. And so all the couples ran off, and then Daphne, she kind of stood there, and I kind of stood and let the rain wash over her. I guess, I don't know, honey, washing her anew. And she had, you know, I don't know, she was happy all of a sudden. She had a new spirit about her. And the people were about to go back on the dance floor, and Lady Danbury basically said that, you know, I mean, I guess this is how we wanted the party to end, but it is over, and so, you know, I guess it's time for people to leave. And so Daphne and Simon had a chance to talk, and he apologized, and she was like, well, there's no reason for you to apologize. Even a dude can't predict the weather. And she told him that she know why he made the vow, that she read the letters, and that just because something's not perfect doesn't mean that it's not worth loving. And, you know, I'm sorry if your father ever made you feel that way. And, you know, I can't, you know, I don't want to play, you know, this game anymore. And I don't want to pretend like I don't love you, and that, you know, I do love you, but you have to choose to love me. And, you know, it was a very heartfelt, you know, conversation. And she walked away and kind of left them standing there to kind of ponder, you know, basically the ball's in your court. You know, she's basically, you know, extended an olive branch. Basically, I'm willing to work on this marriage, but you have to be willing to do the same. So the Featheringtons, they arrive home from the party, and all of the servants are kind of standing in the foyer. And she was like, well, where's Miriam? Is everything okay? And the maid comes over and pulls her to the side and tells her that Lord Featherington is dead. And they, you know, I guess the people are going to have questions about, going to have questions. And she went into his office and went into, I guess, the bag where the money was, and all the money was gone. And of course she collapsed into the chair and cried, and she just, I mean, it wasn't a whole lot more she could do. So all the money is gone, and her husband's gone, and they are now flat broke, and has 3 daughters that are unmarried, and it's like, Lord, what else could happen? So back at Hastings' house, Simon walks in, you know, Daphne is in the sitting room, and Simon walks in, and he tells her that, you know, basically that he doesn't want to be alone, and that his fear is that he can't be the man that she wants him to be. And she tells him that you can, but you have to want to stay and want to work through it. And that's, you know, that's all I need for you to do, is to stay and for us to work through it. And they made love for the first time in a long time. And it seemed like more than once. And it was like, you know, like they were newlyweds all over. I mean, technically they are. I think you're newlyweds for the first year, maybe first year or two. But, you know, it was like they've, you know, like the first time when they got to Cliveden. But, you know, they seem to be at peace and happy again. So now the London season is coming to a close. You see all these, you know, everyone is loading up their carriages with their luggage, cases, gowns, staff, you know, everybody, you know, they're leaving London for the season. And of course it's going through a number of different things. So you had, Penelope, is comforting, Eloise about, Eloise is comforting Penelope about, you know, the loss of her father. And of course she's saying, of course, anything that you need, you know, she's just trying to be there for as a friend. And then Penelope asked her about Eloise, asked her about Lady Whistledown. And she wanted to know if she found anything out. And she said that, you know, she found out that, she felt like she saved Genevieve, and that Lady Whistledown, I guess, will be back next season to report on the goings on of the season, right? And so Lady Portia is in Lord Featherington's room, and she's looking at his empty bed. And Marina walks in and she asked her, how did you survive 20 years of marriage without love? And Lady Portia said, you find other things to occupy your time, you know, your children. It's basically the same thing that Lady Violet said, I believe. Oh, who else said it in the first episode? Like, you find other things to occupy your time, you find other things that bring you joy. And they walked out, and you saw Marina, she got into the carriage. So eventually, I guess, she accepted Sir Philip's proposal. And so now she is off with to marry Sir Philip. And I guess she figured, you know, I mean, at this point, she's between a rock and a hard place. And I think, you know, it's fine to romanticize what your life could be like. But I think for her, it was just society, and, you know, the time was such that, you know, she was backed into a corner, and she really didn't have a choice. And especially she couldn't stay there because you know, Lady Portia can't even afford to keep her own house at this point. You know, it's just, and so while they were standing there, as Marina pulled off, the maid handed her a piece of paper, and she was asking her, so who is going to inherit I guess the title, because Lord Featherington had 3 daughters. He didn't have any sons. So it's usually a relative that comes in, the next male relative that comes in and inherits the title and the estate. And the maid gave her a piece of paper, and she opened it, but of course we don't know who that is just yet. But Lady Portia did not look happy at all. I mean, I don't know if that's due to the fact of who the person is, or the fact that, you know, her husband died and left them penniless. I mean, it could be any number of things. So I can't wait to find out who that is. Collins is, we go over to the Bridgertons, and Collins is leaving, and Hyacinth and George is telling him basically the things that they want him to send back, or I guess bring back the next time that he visits. So they put their order in on top, like, this is what I want. And, you know, I just want you to keep an eye out for these things when you get there. Okay, thank you. Simon and Daphne has decided to stay in London. Anthony asked if they were going back to Cliveden, and they agreed, no, we're going to stay in London for a while. And I think they asked him what he was going to do, and Anthony has decided to set his sights on finding a wife. And they were both surprised, but he, you know, felt like it's time for me to, it was kind of morose. It's time for me to put love aside and basically focus on my duty, and that's basically what he's going to do, I guess, over the course of, I guess, the next year. I guess going into the next season, his focus is going to be finding him a missus. And of course, the whole time this is going on, Lady Whistledown is doing her voiceover. And Eloise goes over to Benedict and says that, you know, asks how Genevieve was doing. And he said that, oh, Genevieve was going back to France for a while. And she was like, oh, are you going to say goodbye? And he said that I said goodbye to her last night. We went to a party. And he said, don't tell Daphne that we left her party, that I left her party early. And she was like, wait a minute, you were with Genevieve last night? He was, yeah. And you kind of see her face because she realized that whoever was in that carriage wasn't Genevieve. So she now realized that Genevieve is not Lady Whistledown. And of course, you know, the voiceover is talking about basically how she was almost found out, this Lady Whistledown. And then you see this carriage with this person, you know, they have this hooded figure, and, you know, they'll be back next season, the whole thing. And then the person removes their hood. And this person has like some letters in their lap, and this person removes their hood, and it's Penelope. So is Penelope Lady Whistledown? Is that what you're trying to say? Or was Penelope been the person feeding Lady Whistledown information? I'm like, okay, I wasn't expecting that, but that was a pleasant surprise. And so just when you thought that it was going to end, the next thing you know, you hear someone in labor screaming, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, is Marina having the baby? Daphne. So Daphne is in labor. She's giving birth. Simon is there. Her mother is there. And she gives birth to a healthy baby boy, and everyone is happy. And it all worked out in the end. So that is basically how this episode 8 ended. It was, like I said, it was a lot crammed into this episode. It was the longest episode at 1 hour and 10 minutes. So I hope that I think I got the majority of what happened in this episode. So I really did enjoy the show. I hope they come back for a second season, and I'm going to end this here, and I will talk to you guys later.